22.1. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling among the Bhagas at the Sumaragira in the Besakala Grove, the deer park. Then the householder, and by the way, this is page 853. Then the householder, Nakulapita, approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him and sat down to one side. Stop here for a moment. This man, Nakulapita, is an old man, and his wife is called Nakulapita. Pita and Mata means father and mother. So the son is called Nakula. So he is known as Nakula's father. His wife is known as Nakula's mother. And both of them, husband and wife, are a very loving couple. And according to the later books, they say that Nakulapita and Nakulapita had been parents of the Buddha for many lifetimes. This is just a speculation. Then Nakulapita said to the Buddha, I am old, Venerable Sir, aged, burdened with years, advanced in life, come to the last stage, afflicted in body, often ill. I rarely get to see the Blessed One and the monks worthy of esteem. Let the Blessed One exhort me, Venerable Sir. Let him instruct me, since that would lead to my welfare and happiness for a long time. The Buddha said, so it is, householder, so it is. This body of yours is afflicted, weighed down and encumbered. If anyone carrying around this body were to claim to be healthy even for a moment, what is that due to other than foolishness? Therefore, householder, you should train yourself thus. Even though I am afflicted in body, that means sick in body, my mind will be unafflicted. Thus should you train yourself. Let's stop here for a while. So here the Buddha says, it's true, your body is old and weak, often ill and all that. But the Buddha said, if anybody can claim that he is healthy, he is a fool, because actually our body is so unreliable. When you think that you are healthy, maybe cancer is already starting in your body. 10 years later only, it breaks out into a lump, then only you realize. So nobody is healthy, because any time we can die. Then the Buddha said, you should train yourself in this way. Even though I am sick in body, my mind will not be sick. So you see, there are two aspects in us, the body and the mind. The body, we don't have much control. The body, it grows old. We cannot stop it from growing old. And then when it becomes sick, we also cannot stop it from becoming sick. But the Buddha says, your mind is within your control. So don't allow your mind to be sick. Then the householder Nakulapita, having delighted and rejoiced in the Blessed One's statement, rose from his seat, and having paid homage to the Blessed One, keeping him on his right, he approached the Venerable Sariputta. Stop here for a moment. You see this Indian tradition, whenever he wants to take leave of the Buddha, he keeps the Buddha on his right side. That's a mark of respect. The Indian tradition, that's why I see, like when you listen to the Dhamma, we wear our robe covering the left shoulder, but we expose our right shoulder. That's a mark of respect. Also, when we sit in line, the monks, you see, the right side is always towards a more senior monk, out of respect. So that's why the senior monk always sits on the right. So when he wants to take leave of the Buddha, also he always keeps the Buddha on his right, slowly walks away. He doesn't turn around with the back facing the Buddha. Having paid homage to the Venerable Sariputta, he sat down to one side. And the Venerable Sariputta then said to him, householder, your faculties are serene, your facial complexion is pure and bright. Did you get to hear a Dhamma talk today in the presence of the Blessed One? Why not, Venerable Sir? Just now I was anointed by the Blessed One with the ambrosia of a Dhamma talk. Sometimes this ambrosia is translated as the nectar of a Dhamma talk. With what kind of ambrosia of a Dhamma talk did the Blessed One anoint you, householder? And then Here, Venerable Sir, I approached the Blessed One, and the householder Nakulapita repeats his entire conversation with the Buddha. It was with the ambrosia of such a Dharma talk, Venerable Sir, that the Blessed One anointed me. And Venerable Sariputta asked him, didn't it occur to you, householder, to question the Blessed One further as to how one is afflicted in body and afflicted in mind, and how one is afflicted in body but not afflicted in mind? And he said, we would come from far away, Venerable Sir, to learn the meaning of this statement from the Venerable Sariputta. It would be good indeed if the Venerable Sariputta would clear up the meaning of this statement. Let's stop here for a moment. So, Venerable Sariputta asked him, why didn't you ask the Buddha to explain what you mean by sick in body and sick in mind? And then secondly, sick in body but not sick in mind. Then he said, he admitted he forgot to ask. He said he'd be willing to walk a long way to listen to Venerable Sariputta's explanation. And Venerable Sariputta said, then listen and attend closely, householder, I will speak. Yes, Venerable Sir, the householder Nakulapita replied. The Venerable Sariputta said this, how, householder, is one afflicted in body and afflicted in mind? Here, householder, the uninstructed worldling, who is not a seer of the noble ones, and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, who is not a seer of superior persons, and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, regards form or body as self, or self as possessing form, or form as in self, or self as in form. Let's stop here for a moment. So here, Venerable Sariputta says, the instructed or unlearned ordinary person, the unlearned ordinary person is the Putujana, who is not a seer of the noble ones. Unlearned ordinary worldling, he does not like to associate with Aryans, noble ones. And so because of that, he is unskilled in the Aryan Dhamma. He is not trained in the Aryan Dhamma. So he regards the body as a self, or self as possessing body. That means I am body, or body is mine, or I am in the body, or the body is inside me. He lives obsessed by the notions, I am form. I think I'll use the word body, it's more meaningful. He lives obsessed by the notions, I am body, body is mine. As he lives obsessed by these notions, that body of his changes and alters. With the change and alteration of body, there arise in him sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair. Similarly, regards feeling as self, perception as self, etc., volition as self, consciousness as self, etc. In other words, he regards these aggregates as the self, or self as possessing any one of these aggregates, or the aggregate is in the self, or the self is in the aggregates. And then he lives obsessed by the notions, I am the aggregates are mine. As he lives obsessed by these notions, those aggregates of his changes and alters. With the change and alteration of the aggregates, there arise in him sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair. It is in such a way, householder, that one is afflicted or sick in body and sick in mind. Let's stop here for a moment. So here, the ordinary person, he associates the five khandhas, the body and the mind, with the self. He thinks these five aggregates are me or mine, or I am in the five aggregates, or the five aggregates are inside me. But these five aggregates, body and mind, is in the world, and everything in the world is changing. I think it is mentioned somewhere that we can see the body changing very fast, but we don't see the mind changing even faster. So when the body changes, for example, we grow old, we look ourselves at our face in the mirror, year by year we grow older, becomes uglier, the body becomes weaker, we become sick more often. We are very lucky already if we don't get a major sickness like cancer. So many people are getting cancer nowadays. So because of change in the body, and not only your own body, those you associate with yourself, like my son, my daughter. If anything happens to your son or your daughter because of impermanent nature of the world, then you suffer. For example, your son gets cancer, or your daughter gets cancer, or your mother gets cancer, and then you suffer because you associate that body, that other person, to be mine, I and mine. So there's the ordinary worldling. The ordinary worldling regards the body and the mind, whether his own or his beloved ones, to be I and mine. So when change comes, and change must come, in this world, nothing ever stands still. It's constantly changing. That's the nature of the world. So when change comes, and we want to hold on to happiness, we don't want it to change. And then when change comes, we suffer. That is how a person is sick in body and sick in mind. Sick in body is like your body changes or somebody else's body changes. And sick in mind is when you think about it, then you have mental suffering. In addition to the body suffering, you have mental suffering. For example, say your son last night went to the karaoke or somewhere and got into a fight and got killed. And then you suffer mental pain, and then when you think about it, one thought becomes 10 thoughts. 10 thoughts become 100 thoughts. 100 thoughts becomes 1,000 thoughts. This is the nature of the mind. The Buddha calls it papancha, the tendency for proliferation of the mind. So when you think so much, then the suffering becomes unbearable. Some people, because somebody they love has passed away, they become even mad, go out of their mind, deranged. On the other hand, say like somebody becomes sick, suddenly realizes that he got cancer. Then the cancer, the sickness of the body gives him physical pain that is sick in the body. But then when he thinks about it, that his life, the doctor says it's only 6 months more. He has 6 months more to live. And he thinks about it, then he gets mental suffering also. So that is being sick in the body and sick in the mind. But afterwards we'll hear about the Arya. And how householder is one afflicted in body but not afflicted in mind, or sick in body but not sick in mind. Here householder, the instructed noble disciple who is a seer of the noble ones and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, who is a seer of superior persons and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, does not regard form as body as self, or self as possessing body, or body as in the self, or self as in the body. He does not live obsessed by the notion, I am body, body is mine. As he lives unobsessed by these notions, that body of his changes and alters. With the change and alteration of body, there do not arise in him sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair. He does not regard feeling as self, or self as possessing feeling, or feeling as in self, or self as in feeling. Similarly, in regards to perception and volition and consciousness, he does not regard the aggregates as the self, or self as possessing the aggregates, or the aggregates as in the self, or self as in the aggregates. He does not live obsessed by the notion, I am the aggregates, or aggregates are mine. As he lives unobsessed by these notions, those aggregates of his changes and alters. With the change and alteration of the aggregates, there do not arise in him sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair. It is in such a way, householder, the one is sick in body, but not sick in mind. This is what the Venerable Sariputta said. Elated the householder Nakulapita, delighted in the Venerable Sariputta statement. That's the end of the sutta. So here, the learned Aryan disciple who sees Aryans and learns the Aryan Dhamma and trains himself in the Aryan Dhamma, then he realizes that the body and the mind is something that is impermanent, and because it is changing all the time, it is not the self. It is beyond our control. So how can it be ourself? It does not even belong to us, because if something belongs to us, we have control over it. If money is mine, I can use it as I wish. But this body is not yours, because the Buddha says you have no control over it. When it's aging, can you ask it to stop aging? You cannot. When it's sick, can you ask it to get well? You cannot. Beyond your control. Even the mind also. The mind works in a way. Sometimes those thoughts that you don't think you should be thinking certain thoughts, but you start thinking those thoughts out of habit. Sometimes you don't want to be angry, but you get angry because you find it difficult to control your mind. So the Buddha says that's why the body and mind is not yours. So the Aryan disciple, he dissociates himself from the body and the mind. He does not associate, he does not identify himself with the body and the mind. Although he still has a self, he has the feeling that the self exists, but he can see clearly because the body and the mind is changing all the time. It cannot be I or mine. So he does not identify with the body and the mind as the self, but he still has a self. But at least when he can do that, then he becomes an Arya. Then when the body changes or the mind changes, the body is sick, but the mind, he does not grieve, he does not affect his mind, because once a person understands the Dhamma, then he understands that the world goes in a certain pattern. You cannot change the world. You cannot change the world. So we have to accept whatever that comes. We just accept and do the best that we can. Whatever comes now is a result of the past. The past karma, the past conditions have created the conditions today. That we cannot do anything about. What we can do is to live skillfully so that the future is better. Right? So understanding that whatever comes now we cannot change. That is a result of past conditions. Then we just accept it. When we accept it, then there is no mental dukkha. The mental dukkha comes from thinking. When you don't accept it, then you keep thinking, and your suffering multiplies. But you accept whatever comes as something that you cannot change due to previous conditions. So you accept whatever comes along, and then you realize that you can only try to condition the future. So now you change your life to lead a very skillful life, so that tomorrow and the day after you become a happier person. But whatever we do now, it will influence our future. So because of that, because we don't refuse to accept, we accept whatever comes, then we don't have that mental torture that comes from thinking about it. It's only when we don't accept, and then we start thinking and we start regretting and we start all that, and then it multiplies and multiplies until you cannot sleep, until you go out of your mind.